Welcome to ShiftWatch. I'm your host, Starbuck. In this episode, late last week, Dave Wallace sent a YouTube link to me of an interview with a scientist and inventor of some mathematical renown, Frederick Faggin. The interview was going on about the metaphysical epiphany he'd received regarding how consciousness creates mathematics, not the other way around. It caused me to go back and find those wisdom nuggets Dave had shared with us beginning in 2023 over a few months' time that would set the stage for science and metaphysics coming together. Next, the seismic activity growing across the planet cannot be ignored. We have been in peak solar maximum conditions to receive the energy the sun is emitting throughout the solar system, and Earth is getting in the way more often. We'll hear from sources familiar with the circumstances, the Earth Master, Space Weather News, and Aegean lifestyle stories. Then, has there been any prehistoric civilizations or ET civilizations on Earth beyond human civilization? Yes, plenty. Here's evidence from Mr. Y Talks. And finally, here's Dave Wallace's history with us on sharing the four particles that shape reality: time, light, gravity, and sound. You already know what binds them together. Since last week's ShiftWatch got my attention with a scientist who is going through his own human awakening, energetic changes, and now sees the folly of his ideas and just kind of all that science knows is all that science knows. It got Dave's attention when he saw it. And I hoped it would. At what point did he start to begin to introduce the ideas of time, light, gravity, and sound? Well, I had been triggered by the first time he ever said it to me, so I was eager to dispatch myself on this assignment, and there were three. So aside from whenever this scientist began to have his own little wonderful awakening and started to have his public admission of such, we look back at May of 2023 when Dave began to share with us information he had received about the interactions between the particles of time, light, gravity, and sound. That was the first time that Dave mentioned it. I went on to look into one in June where he elaborated on it a little bit more, but still hadn't really come to the conclusion on what was that, whatever it is, what was that thing that bound them all together, that when we understood what that was, we would be able to impact the outcome. Was it October? When Dave came on, and at the very end of one of the star chats, he said, I'm finally going to share with you what that was.
Did you have a clip that you wanted to include of me saying that it was consciousness, or do you want to just take it from here?
Those are already keyed up in ShiftWatch this week. So this is going to lend some credence to this week's episode of that. I lifted all three of those so that they could be played in succession, and then you will get it.
Faggin, the physicist, has announced that there is no organized way to approach the construction of the universe through mainstream science and Earth terrestrial science, that the universe is consciousness and it exists because of consciousness. Well, as soon as I saw that, and I know that Lowell had put up a brief blip about the guy on ShiftWatch because I had sent that to Lowell, and he cottoned on to this whole thing right away. And so very good for Faggin to say, the universe is consciousness. Academia will only now just promote that. because
Yeah.
he's an academic with a PhD who's been spending, a huge percentage of his life teaching in university all the various concepts of consciousness being the reality that we live in by the mere process of our thoughts creating this existence.
Here's a mathematician, spent all his time trying to come to that conclusion, only to conclude that consciousness is what creates
Right.
math.
And I
It
think,
reminded me of a couple years ago when Adam Rickus came across my path. He had been to India to meet with Sam the Illusionist, this kid, the young guy there that was channeling lots of things, and part of them were the Lemurians. And one of the things that Adam wanted to ask the Lemurians, and he asked through Sam, was, can you explain your technology to us? And even the Lemurians back then said, our technology comes from consciousness, period.
Also watching a pretty decent swarm going on here across the Hayward Fault. In fact, some newer activity at the northern end of the Hayward Fault, following a swarm of activity further down south here. We got to watch this fault system very closely. I think it's about ready to pop. Earlier in the afternoon here, a series of 3.0 earthquakes, the largest of 3.7 in the cluster here along the Hayward Fault. The more recent one, again, up north here, 12 miles deep for a 2.4 off the Hayward Fault. Now, the Hayward Fault, very capable of producing an upper 6 to low 7 magnitude earthquake. In fact, the last big earthquake was back in 1868. The fault itself is about 119 kilometers long. That's 74 miles long. It does run through some highly densely populated areas, including Richmond, Berkeley, Oakland, all those areas. Big-time concrete jungles down there. Now, again, 1868, right? That's quite a ways, a long time ago. Well over 130 years, 140 years or so. More than that. So there's a potential here in relation to the Rogers Creek Fault Zone that the two could be linked. The Rogers Creek Fault a little bit further upstream from the Hayward Fault. If those two rupture at the same time, a magnitude could be in the range of a 7.2. That would be a pretty powerful earthquake. And that's something that could be not good. In October 2016, scientists found definitive evidence that the Rogers Creek Fault and the Hayward Fault are linked together underneath the San Pablo Bay. Simultaneous rupture of the connected Hayward-Rogers Creek Fault, which is fairly lengthy, from north of Harrisburg down to Alum Rock in San Jose, could result in a major earthquake of a magnitude 7.4. So, of course, the longer the fault system, the more likelihood of seeing a major earthquake on it. So we got to watch this pretty closely here, folks. Again, a lot of time has passed. Estimated magnitude between a 6.3 to 6.7 from that 1868 earthquake. Now, they do put out, the USGS did put out a little probability here. That's a little bit too big. Let's see here. Let's go back here. That'll work. Hayward Fault, well, anywhere in the Bay Area, they got a 62% probability of one or more magnitude 6.7 or greater earthquakes from 2003 to 2032. And, of course, we're well into that time frame here. The Hayward Fault is well constrained here. It's an area that's been building up quite a bit of strain here for a number of years. The average time between the last 5 major events here on the Hayward Fault average about 140 years here. So if you do the math, right, the 140th anniversary of the 1868 earthquake was back in 2008. That was actually a long time ago. I mean, technically speaking, it's 2025. So we're well over the 140-year interval. Looking at a very large potential here of seeing an earthquake soon. And I'd say that because these type of swarms here on a fault system that is well overdue, these could very well be foreshocks.
East African rift swarm not only is continuing, but hit magnitude 6 yesterday. It's the biggest one yet. Folks, nearly 300 earthquakes have hit this little area since Christmas. Compare that to just 31 that had struck since the year 2000. But it's not the only uptick swarm in the world right now, where they say Greece is moving from seismic events to continuous harmonic tremors. 70% chance that's due to magma motion. Despite a lesser seismic foretelling thus far, Santorini is the biggest concern short term. And it's just a little sidestep to earthquake forecasting. Here they're solidifying the newer and less published correlation between radon ground release changes and earthquakes to come. Those big shakes really snitch on themselves beforehand.
Good morning from beautiful shores of Aegean Sea, and welcome back to my channel. This is Aegean Lifestyle Stories. Recently I did 2 videos about possible Santorini earthquake and volcanic eruption, and I got some comments about making things exaggerated and trying to create hypes and things like that. So I guess I have to set the record straight for you guys. We are about 40 miles away from Santorini. Santorini, if it's gonna erupt, we're gonna be definitely see it. And we got all the earthquakes, we got all the shakings in this area too. And so we're following the earthquake and all the activities actually. That's why I was talking about Santorini. As we get all the earthquakes, we are alarmed here also, and we are worried about what's going to happen. But if something will happen, it's going to happen in any case. You know what I'm going to show you right now? Okay, look where my camera is. This is a stone which is about maybe 2,000 years ago, put here by some guys. And this is the shoreline of, I forgot the name. This is the shoreline of an ancient city that was here. And I wonder how many merchants actually walked on this brick here. And nobody cares, I guess, looks like. And if you're wondering how these cities destroyed, I got a news for you. They all destroyed by earthquakes. So things happens. The only thing we can do, as most of you guys do, which is good, pray and thanks God for all the good things, for all the blessings, I guess. That's the only thing you can do.
The history of human civilization is less than 10,000 years. If we consider the lifespan of Earth as 24 hours, the history of human civilization is less than 0.2 seconds, even shorter than the blink of an eye. People can't help but ask, during the long span of Earth's existence, have there been more advanced ancient civilizations? The continuous emergence of archaeological sites, artifacts, and mysterious phenomena seems to convey a message: human civilization is not the only one on Earth. Prehistoric civilizations, and even extraterrestrial civilizations, have appeared on Earth. However, due to various reasons, they have been submerged in the river of history, waiting for us to explore. On June 5, 1952, in the ruins of a temple in the ancient Mayan city of Palenque, Mexico, a stone slab was excavated, featuring engravings of figures and patterns. The slab measures 3.80 meters in length, 2.20 meters in width, and 25 centimeters in thickness. At the time, it did not receive much attention. It was only in the 1960s, after humans first ventured into space, that this stone slab caught the attention of scientists. The depicted patterns on the slab left people shocked. It was a depiction of a human-operated flying craft. The details on the slab were remarkably clear, showing the craft's air intake, exhaust pipe, control stick, and other components. The figure in the artwork had an oxygen tube attached to his nose, his hands were maneuvering the spacecraft, and his foot was on something resembling a throttle, suggesting he was navigating through space. The history of this stone slab can be traced back to the Maya civilization period, approximately 4,500 years ago. Some speculate that extraterrestrial civilizations may have visited the ancient Maya city. It is also possible that there existed highly intelligent life forms there. The mysterious disappearance of the Maya civilization further fuels people's boundless imagination. Within the architectural remnants left by ancient civilizations, there are numerous unexplained phenomena that tell us that advanced civilizations once existed there. The most famous example is the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. It covers an area of 13.1 acres and was constructed using nearly 2.6 million massive stones, each weighing at least 2.5 tons, totaling 6.25 million tons. How did the ancient Egyptians manage to construct the pyramid using such large stone blocks? There was no cement or adhesive material between the stones and the pyramid structure. Instead, each stone was placed on top of another, carefully cut and polished to create a smooth surface. It is difficult for a sharp blade to penetrate the gaps between the stones. How did the ancient Egyptians possess such advanced architectural techniques? Nazca lines in Peru. The Nazca lines in Peru are among the largest fossilized remnants in the world and one of the most famous enigmatic sites. The Nazca lines are a series of massive ground figures located on the Nazca Desert in southern Peru. They dated back to a period between 500 BCE and 500 CE. Around 300 patterns were carved into the desert, featuring straight lines, geometric shapes, and various animals. The total length of the lines exceeds 1,300 kilometers, covering an area of approximately 50 square kilometers. In fact, many people question how such massive lines were etched onto the Earth's surface, as they appeared beyond the capability of ordinary humans at that time. On the ground, they are indistinct reddish-brown winding paths. It is only when viewed from high above that these lines form enormous figures of animals. Did the creators of the lines possess the ability to view the ground from high altitude back then? Over 20 years ago, a diving guide accidentally discovered an ancient underwater ruin near Yonaguni Island, Japan, revealing a submerged civilization dating back approximately 10,000 years. Since then, numerous mind-boggling stone structures, including massive stone blocks, stone pillars, large stepped constructions, canals, caves, and carvings, have been continuously found in this marine area. In the sea area of Nishizaki, the westernmost point of Yonaguni Island, a massive pyramid constructed with stacked rocks has been discovered. At the top of this immense pyramid, there are structures resembling city gates, corridors, and watchtowers. Within such complex architectural undertakings, what kind of advanced civilization lies buried? Where did they come from, after all? There is far more evidence of other intelligent civilizations on Earth than just the examples mentioned. However, to paint an accurate picture of Earth's development from its inception to the present, there are still many puzzle pieces that have yet to be found.
So Lowell and I talked about the 4 aspects of reality, and then what Lowell and I would like to do is allow me to do some segments. One of them will be perhaps about the trip and the technology. And then the next one will be about the science that I learned from them, how we are able to travel, and show you guys some of the physics equations. So I'm happy to fall under the category of pseudoscience. This could be, Data Dump Dave's pseudoscience hour, where, I talk about pseudoscience because I'm not really bothered about producing an abstract that's going to be approved by a governing body. Because, oh my gosh, Lowell, I have so many wonderful devices, and, you saw a lot of the stuff that I was drawing in the equations and the spaceship pictures and everything. I mean, they've given me aspects of designing interstellar conveyance.
All of this information is starting to be revealed to us, and in bits and pieces. It's not that what Dave understands, he's going to teach the rest of us. There are only going to be a handful of people that are even going to get it. So trying to teach others is ridiculous. My point is, Dave understands it and just articulated a minute ago. He knows he's connected to everybody else. So we don't have to worry about Dave teaching everybody else. We have Dave. We have his consciousness taking care of that part of what the tribe is, supposed to do. But people need something to believe. They've only believed what we've been fed, and by these organizations that have been funded for, purposes and agendas of their own.
Every function or domain function of reality, every part of reality is part of a system. So I ask, what is the system of reality? And what is the domain function? What glue binds them to a time domain function? So time, light, gravity, and sound are sort of the new, old, grand, unified theory. Light frequency, speed, and wavelength. So Fg, force of gravity, G is universal gravitational constant, V, M1, mass of the first, and M2, mass of the second, and distance between objects. Gravity is described in wave equations. V for velocity measured in microseconds, lambda, wavelength measured in meters of sound, and F for frequency measured in hertz. There is no formula for time. There's no equation for time. There are versions of equations for time that are based on scales, based on graphs, and based on linear flowcharts. So instead of trying to find an equation for time, I just wrote infinity, because that's, to me, what time is. It's infinity. Here with light, you have a frequency, speed, and wavelength, lambda. And then gravity is described in wave equations. The sound is also, so it's frequency measured in hertz, V for velocity in microseconds. So time, light, gravity, and sound, those are the four main components of reality in which we exist. And yet there's no simple explanation for what binds them together. You cannot remove time and have light, gravity, and sound. And you cannot just have light and gravity, or you can't just have sound and time. You see, time, light, gravity, and sound have to work together in a very powerful unity. I'm spending the next 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 years trying to discover what it is that binds time, light, gravity, and sound together and allows them to work so uniquely and succinctly together, knowing that if you remove any one of those aspects of reality, the whole field collapses. So time, light, gravity, and sound are something that we should all be thinking about as far as understanding, because if you realize that time, light, gravity, and sound all operate under the same code, then you're going to realize that time has to be a particle. Light frequencies, light is made up of many particles. Gravity is a particle in the form of gravitons. And sound can be broken up into particles or become a particle, and particles of vibrations or frequency can also represent sound. So think about time, light, gravity, and sound as the new grand unified theory, and try and understand what it is that binds time, light, gravity, and sound together. I'm not going to wait any longer to tell you guys what the particle is that holds time, light, gravity, and sound together. And look at the four basic principles of reality: time, light, gravity, and sound, and how if you remove one aspect of any of those, the whole field collapses. The whole field. You can't have time and light without gravity. You can't have gravity and time without sound, because they're all intermingled as the progenitor to or the result of. But all of these four fields must intermix. That's why time should be viewed as a particle, because particles can intermix. And G, what is that glue? What is that glue? What holds reality together? You see it? It's consciousness. Time, light, gravity, and sound are bound together by the human mind, by your ability to conceive in it in the first place. Your cosmic consciousness creates life all around you, whether you realize it or not.